Unexpectedly abandoned on his wedding day, a groom's 6-month journey to transformation exposed. The church was a symphony of emotion that day, a sea of white flowers, vibrant banners, and smiling faces, all ready to witness a love story unfold. Matt stood at the altar, hands clammy, heart racing. Anticipation mingled with nervous energy as he glanced at his guests, family, and friends, each one brimming with joy. But just moments before the music began, the doors swung open, and it wasn't the figure of his beloved fiancée that entered the room. No, it was the abrupt chill of betrayal. She didn't come. In an instant, the air turned heavy, suffocated by shocked whispers. The happiness of the moment shattered like glass, and Matt was left standing alone, feeling like a puppet that had lost its strings. As reality sunk in, time felt suspended. Tears streamed down his face, indignation raced through his veins. The laughter of friends turned into silence, echoing the weight of public humiliation. Unshed anger twisted in his gut, shame felt like a noose around his neck. How would he ever face them again? He cast his gaze across the aisle, to his father who had worked tirelessly in their garage, and his grandfather, a stoic Vietnam vet, who stared back with concern. The moment was unbearable. With every second that passed, his dreams of a happy life crumpled like discarded paper. Over the next 6 months, the journey was riddled with darkness. A relentless storm of self-doubt and worthlessness raged within. He lost his job at the garage when the company folded. An entire lifetime of hard work reduced to nothing. Matt spiraled. Each day felt heavier than the last. But in those shadowy depths, a flicker of light appeared. He started volunteering at the community center, mentoring local teens who faced their own struggles. It was there Matt found solace, a sense of purpose that began to heal his fractured spirit. He listened to their dreams, shared tales of resilience, and in doing so, he felt the weight lift just a bit. Soon, the community recognized his commitment, not for the abandoned groom he was, but for the man who fought for others, mirroring his grandfather's unwavering dignity. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. 6 months flew by, and Matt's life took another turn when he was offered a job in the city, a lucrative opportunity that beckoned like a siren's call. Excitement buzzed in the air, yet leaving Maplewood felt like cutting ties with his heart. The town that had cradled him through tough times, the teens whose spirits he nurtured, and the family who had supported him rang louder in his soul than the promise of a shiny career. But life's unpredictability had one more test. During a community meeting, he took a stand for a local family wronged by false accusations of welfare fraud. The tension in the room thickened as whispers circulated. But with familiar faces behind him, the values he held dear swelled inside, surging forth like a tidal wave. Now, with his heart racing and everything on the line, Matt faced a momentous decision. The room simmered with anticipation, his grandfather's proud gaze steady and unwavering, as he pondered what does it really mean to achieve the American dream when faced with the love and loyalty that shapes who we are? The room was electric. Matt felt the heat rising in his cheeks as he stood there, heart pounding. The moment stretched on, every second like a drumbeat of fate. He could sense the rush of concern from the audience, the murmurs fluttering like moths in the dim light. Would they listen? Did they believe in the truth he was fighting for? Enough is enough, he declared, his voice slicing through the buzz. The words came from deep within, not just as a plea but as a battle cry. He saw a flicker of surprise in the eyes of the local officials sitting, arms crossed, at the front table. They weren't expecting this fire from the abandoned groom. But he wasn't that man anymore. He had clawed his way out of the shadows and learned to stand for something. Outside, the sky threatened a downpour, but inside the community hall, the atmosphere was charged with a kind of hope. Some began nodding along, faces lifting from worry to understanding. He glanced toward the back, where a few of the teens he mentored sat wide-eyed, their belief in him almost tangible. Their trust in him unfurled like a banner, urging him on. Linda and Tom are hard-working people, he continued, passionate urgency slipping from his tongue like a river's flow. They deserve respect, not slander. If we allow this injustice to stand, what does it say about us? Each sentence was a bridge connecting him to everyone in the room, stitching together their shared values, their community spirit. The official fidgeted, her brows furrowing. This isn't the way to address concerns. I've learned a lot about struggle over the last 6 months, Matt interrupted, his inflection rising, maintaining control. I've listened to those same teens tell me their dreams, their aspirations, those can't be silenced by fear or a bad reputation. We're better than that. His grandfather's gaze was steady, unwavering, as if passing the strength of a soldier down to his grandson. Matt could almost feel the weight of his legacy on his shoulders, like armor against doubt. He took a breath, his chest fuller now, tracing the hope that hung in the air. Then he locked eyes with the audience. We can be a community grounded in compassion. A murmur rippled through the crowd. It was small at first, a whispered agreement that grew louder, becoming a swell of emotion. Faces shifted from uncertainty to resolve. The officials shifted uncomfortably as they faced a tide of public sentiment. Just then, a young woman in the back stood up. You're right, Matt. We've got to stick together. We've seen enough hatred. That prompted a wave of voices. People began shouting affirmations, drawing strength from one another. Energy surged through the crowd, a palpable sense of unity as they stood as one. It was cathartic, a release that sent a thrill through him. He grinned, a wide, genuine smile. Maybe this was the moment he had both feared and longed for. One simple step toward reclaiming not just his honor, but the heart of Maplewood itself. But as the cheers echoed around him, a chill crept over his excitement. What next? This fight was just beginning. The room felt electric, but beneath it all was an unshakable weight, a lingering question. Who would possibly stand against him now that he had taken this bold leap? Matt's heart raced with possibilities, each thump a reminder that the real challenge had just begun. And with every moment that passed, the reality of what lay ahead began to sink in, teasing at the edges of his consciousness. Did he have the strength for what would come next? The fight for justice was on the horizon, and he could feel it calling to him. What would happen to his community and himself as he dove deeper into this battle? The cheers began to fade, and as they did, Matt felt a new weight settle in the pit of his stomach. The thrill of the moment began to fray, replaced by a series of harsh realities buzzing in his mind. What if they didn't really stand behind him? What if the forces arrayed against the people he spoke for were stronger than he anticipated? The voices of support still echoed around him, but uncertainty curled around the edges of his hopeful vision. He scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces among the sea of newfound allies. Up front, he spotted Laura, the owner of the local diner, her fists clenched tight, eyes blazing. Next to her, Old Man Jenkins nodded, a rare smile lighting his weathered face. But in the back, a cloud loomed, the figure of Roger, the town's enforcer of rules and regulations, arms crossed defiantly against his chest. Matt felt a chill as their eyes met, a silent challenge sparking between them that sent a shiver down his spine. Are you ready for what's next? Matt thought, the question echoing in his mind. He had ignited a flame tonight, but he'd have to fan it, face the looming storm brewing both outside and within. What would happen to Linda and Tom if he didn't succeed? Their faces, full of worry when they had come to him for help, pressed into his thoughts. Let us make some change, he shouted suddenly, rallying himself. He sensed the crowd shift again, the energy sparking back up as they lifted their spirits. Their voices filled the hall, rising like a chant, an anthem of defiance, but still, doubt lingered. He turned back to the podium, heart thumping with purpose. I know it won't be easy, he spoke, and the tone of his voice shifted to a gathering intensity. There's a battle ahead. We'll face resistance. But I believe in us. Together, we can push against hatred. Together, we can be the voice for those who feel voiceless. The crowd erupted again, the sound cascading around him like a wave, washing over his worries momentarily. But beneath the cheers, there was tension. What if their resolve faltered tomorrow? What if other voices drowned out the passion they felt here tonight? He stepped back and looked at the exit, where the fading light flickered through the windows. Rain began to patter softly against the glass. It felt so final. A small reminder of the storm they were all stepping into. The metaphor loomed. Had they burned too brightly too soon? Or would the warmth of their unity be enough to stave off the cold of the fight ahead? As silence took hold and anticipation hummed like unstrung guitar strings, Matt knew he had to go deeper. He had called them to action, but he also needed to lead them into uncharted waters. What if we meet again next week? We gather, share our stories, plan our next steps, he suggested, and he could feel the collective nods of agreement hit him like warm sunshine. As he stepped down from the podium, the buzzing crowd pulsed around him. But his heart danced with a mix of terror and exhilaration. He could hear whispers of families discussing strategies, their plans sparking like kindling a fire ignited to fight injustice. But what awaited him in that growing darkness? The comfort of voices began to fade as a sense of foreboding slipped back in. Would he really have the strength to navigate the storms? Would he stand firm against the tide of doubt? With uncertainty tightening around him, the feelings taut and yet thrilling, Matt instinctively reached for his phone, ready to send out a message to his group about the next meeting. He felt the weight of every click, aware that each message held potential. What would be their first target? Would they be ready to stand together when the time came to face Roger and his tactics head-on? The fight was just beginning, and with every heartbeat, he wondered how far he could carry them all, how far he could carry himself. What lay ahead was a test of strength and resilience, not just for him, but for the entire community. Would they rally behind him, or would shadows of doubt and betrayal creep in? Matt walked out of the hall and into the drizzle, the night air heavy with the scent of wet asphalt and uncertainty. His heart raced, every step taking him away from the echoes of the crowd still buzzing with hope. Despite the cheers, a part of him felt like he was standing at the edge of a cliff, teetering dangerously close to the unknown. He pulled his coat tighter around him, seeking warmth from the chill of the night and the growing anxiety swirling inside. What if this was all just a fleeting moment? What if the unity they felt tonight dwindled by morning? His mind swirled with thoughts of Linda's anxious brow and Tom's hopeful smile. They believed in him. But would he be enough for them? As he walked down the street, Matt spotted Laura leaning against the diner, her warmth radiating through the darkness. Her hair was still damp from the rain, but her expression was fierce. "Hey you," she called, pushing off the wall and striding toward him. "You okay? You were great up there." "Thanks, Laura," he replied, forcing a smile despite the weight settling heavier on his shoulders. I worry about what's next." She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing with determination. "You don't have to carry all this alone, you know. We're with you. The whole community is. I saw it in there tonight." Those words pierced through his fog of doubt like sunlight breaking through a storm cloud. "Really?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Really," she affirmed, her expression softening. "But we need a plan. We can't just be angry. We have to channel that energy somewhere." The fire ignited in her words stirred something deep within him. "So, we're meeting next week. We'll start brainstorming, create a game plan. Maybe target Roger's latest regulations?" Laura nodded excitedly. "Yes, and we can organize a rally. Make it bigger. Bring in other locals who feel the same. The more voices, the stronger we'll be." Matt felt a stir of energy at her suggestion. "I'll reach out. But we have to be smart. The last thing we need is to make things worse before we're ready." "This is it, Matt," Laura insisted. "This is our chance to change things. People are waking up. You need to believe that." As they spoke, a light flickered in Matt, a spark against the gnawing uncertainty. What if they did rise up together? What if this was just the beginning of something beautiful? But as he glanced back toward the hall, where shadows danced in the flickering lights, doubt clawed at him again. He felt the weight of imminent resistance embodied in Roger's crossed arms, the looming specter of retaliation close on their heels. Matt tugged at his hair, frustration battling with a growing sense of resolve. "Let us meet tomorrow," he decided suddenly, the words spilling out. "Let us get a core group together, the ones who will really fight. We'll strategize from the ground up." "Count me in," Laura affirmed, her enthusiasm invigorating. With a firm nod, Matt turned to leave. As he walked away from the diner, he was acutely aware of the night's weight seeping into his bones. It felt like the calm before the storm. The rain began to pour harder, washing over him, but also cleansing something inside, a determination to change the narrative, to stand up in the face of fear. But deep within, shadows lurked, reminding him how quickly hope could shift to despair. With every step toward home, he couldn't shake the nagging question: would his community stay united when the winds of doubt began to howl? As he reached his front porch, he paused, staring into the darkness ahead. The road ahead was long and fraught, yet somewhere through his worry was a glimmer of hope. Could he turn that flicker into a beacon for them all? Matt took a deep breath, summoning courage. What was the first step he needed to take to unite them under a single banner? Would he find the allies he so desperately needed, or would they abandon him when the tides turned? The battle was beginning to loom, and he felt every heartbeat echoing the uncertainty of what tomorrow would bring. The next morning dawned gray and heavy, mirroring the anxiety gnawing in Matt's stomach. He awoke to the relentless patter of rain against his window, reminding him of everything that lay ahead. As he dressed, each article of clothing felt like armor, preparing him for the tasks to come. But deep inside, he still felt vulnerable, like a soldier stepping into an unwinnable battle. He made a quick cup of coffee, its bitter aroma filling the small kitchen. With each sip, he willed himself to shake off the lingering doubts. Today would be different. Today, he would gather his people. He stepped outside, the fresh air washing over him, mingling with the lingering scent of rain. The world felt hushed in the aftermath of the storm, but within him, there was a pulse of energy waiting to break free. He grabbed his phone and started scrolling through contacts, sending out a call for help, invoking the passion that had ignited in the hall the night before. The responses came in waves, each notification a spark of hope. Linda was on board, excited about the idea to brainstorm solutions. Tom sent a thumbs-up emoji, convinced they could rally the community. And Laura was ready to mobilize, eager to spread the word. The meeting was set for later that evening at the community center, a small venue, but one they all felt held a piece of their shared history. Matt could already envision people filling the chairs, the buzz of nervous energy hanging in the air. As he pulled up to the center, the rain had lightened to a steady drizzle. He parked and hopped out, heart racing. From the corner of his eye, he spotted Laura waving energetically as others trickled in. It felt good to see familiar faces, resilient and determined. But as they trickled in, Matt's heart sank at the sight of some empty chairs scattered around the room. He tried to shake it off, but couldn't help it. The weight of underwhelming support crushed him momentarily. He forced a smile and greeted each person, the joy and encouragement he felt before beginning to dim. "Hey everyone, thanks for coming," he called, his voice surprisingly steady. "Tonight's about us, about our community. We're at a crossroads, and we need to figure this out together." Opinions bounced around the room like popcorn, a mix of excitement and apprehension. Linda stood and raised her voice above the chatter. "Let us not forget what brought us here. We have momentum, and we must gather more support. We need to make our case, draft letters, even put together a petition." Matt nodded, feeling the fire of their shared purpose flicker back to life. One by one, ideas flowed with increasing confidence. Laura suggested reaching out to local businesses for support, gaining the backing of those who could amplify their voices, but then the whispers began. People started voicing fears. What if Roger retaliates? One man questioned, a frown deepening on his brow. Are we ready for that? A chill ran through the room, silencing their excitement. The very thing Matt had feared pushed its way to the surface, sowing discord. Everyone's eyes turned to him, seeking leadership and reassurance. He felt the weight of their expectations, heavy and suffocating. "Listen," he said, taking a deep breath. "There will be obstacles. We can't pretend the path will be easy. But if we stand together, We can protect what we love about this community and create change. We have each other's backs, right? Murmurs of agreement began to rise, hesitant but growing in strength. Just as Matt felt a sense of unification building, a loud crash echoed from outside. They all rushed to the windows, peering out, hearts racing. The sight that met them turned their blood-cold. Roger's truck plowed right through a nearby picket fence, a menacing message sent from their town's antagonistic force. Matt felt the ground shift under him. Would they still be united when faced with this kind of intimidation? Would he be enough to lead them through the storm? His heart thundered in his chest. The night was only beginning, and he couldn't help but wonder, could they really stand their ground, or would this be the tipping point that sent them spiraling into despair? The room fell silent as everyone stared in disbelief at the wreckage outside. The screech of the tires still echoed in their ears, mingled with the rain now lashing against the windows. Matt's breath caught in his throat. Time seemed to slow as he looked from the broken fence to the faces of his friends' faces that now reflected a mix of anger, fear, and uncertainty. Did you see that? Laura's voice broke the stillness, urgency crackling in the air. He did it on purpose. Matt stepped away from the window, his mind racing. He needed to act. We can't let this scare us. This is exactly what he wants, to intimidate us into silence. His voice steadied. We're not backing down. Tom crossed his arms, visibly shaken. But what if he decides to go further? This was just a fence. What if he lashes out at us directly? A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, doubt creeping into their resolve. Fear hung like a thick fog, stifling their earlier enthusiasm. Fighting back means doing it together, Matt replied, desperately searching for the right words. We can't let his tactics divide us. We've come so far today has to mark the beginning, not the end. He glanced around the room, locking eyes with each person. If we leave now, we're playing right into his hands. We need to plan, to show him that we won't be scared away. Linda raised her hand, her voice trembling slightly, but with determination. What can we do, Matt? We need a plan. We have to respond. First, he said, pulling out a notepad, we document this. Someone needs to capture the details of the incident, the fear we all felt. Then, let us gather evidence, pictures, statements, everything we can. We have to present a united front. The group began to buzz again, the energy shifting as they recognized the rallying call. Someone found a phone, and another dragged a chair to stand on for better visibility. We'll spread the word. Someone shouted, and a renewed sense of purpose filled the air. In the background, the rain drummed louder, almost like a chorus egging them on. Outside, Roger's truck sat ominously by the now-destroyed fence, a dark cloud hovering over their intentions. With shared glances of determination, they picked up their phones, ready to text, to call, to mobilize, but just as they began to draft a plan, an unexpected figure appeared at the door, drenched and panting. It was Barry, a neighbor who had been quietly watching from the sidelines. He stood there, water streaming down his face, shoulders hunched in exhaustion, but eyes fierce with resolve. I heard the crash, he gasped. I came as fast as I could. What is going on? Matt gestured him in, his heart racing anew. Barry had always been known as someone who avoided confrontation, a watcher rather than a player. But something about his presence sparked a light. You're just in time, Matt said, excitement mingling with his trepidation. No one had expected Barry to show up, but perhaps that was a sign. If even he could summon the courage to step forward, then maybe their story could be one of bravery too. Let us get started then, Matt declared, his voice rising above the murmur. They crowded around the table, fueled by the looming threat outside and the hope of standing together. They were ready to make a stand, yet as plans began to form, a feeling lingered in Matt's gut. The moment was charged, but was it enough? Would this be their breakthrough or just the beginning of a much darker path? Before he could dwell too long on that thought, another loud bang resounded from outside, echoing like a thunderclap. Everyone's eyes turned toward the door. What now? Would Roger escalate his intimidation, or was this merely an unfortunate coincidence? There was too much uncertainty, and the weight of it pressed heavily on Matt's chest. Would they hold their ground, or could this be the tipping point that shattered their fragile unity? The room vibrated with tension, a shared breath held as they turned their attention back to the door. Matt's heart raced. The bang seemed to reverberate in his very bones. Was it Roger out there? This wasn't just about the fence anymore. It was about asserting their strength in the face of outright aggression. Matt? Barry's voice broke through the chaotic thoughts in his head. What if he really is coming for us? Matt exhaled slowly, knowing he needed to quell the panic that bubbled just below the surface. We've got to be ready, he replied, glancing around at the concerned faces of his friends. Whatever he's planning, we can handle this. Together. With determination, Linda stepped forward, her earlier trepidation fading. Shouldn't we show that we're not afraid? Maybe we need to confront him directly? A soft shuffling of feet and murmurs echoed through the room, but Matt could see the flicker of fear in their eyes. He understood their hesitation. Maybe confronting him directly isn't the answer, but standing our ground is, he countered. We can't just shrink back. That's exactly what he wants. Just then, another loud crash thundered from the outside, followed by the sound of shattering glass. This time, the fear settled heavily on their hearts. Tom's expression soured as he muttered, "What if it gets worse?" Matt stood, firm and steady. We can't let him drive a wedge between us. We're stronger together. Let us finish this plan and be ready for whatever comes. He turned back to the notepad and scribbled down their next steps. We document, he said, his focus sharpened. Then we need to gather everyone. Our neighbors need to know what's happening. If we're unified, he can't break us. Laura spoke up, light creeping back into her voice. I can go door to door. I know most people in the neighborhood. If we rally together, we won't let him push us around. Matt nodded, sensing the tide beginning to shift. And we need to find a way to record everything. Pictures, videos, statements. We need proof. Linda tapped her phone, determination in her eyes. I'll manage the social media side. We can create a group to keep everyone updated. The energy around the table grew. Individuals began to break away from the huddle, their earlier fear transforming into action. Barry, energized by the swell of activity, nodded as if a new part of himself was awakening. I'll help you with the recordings, he said, his voice steady now. Let us make sure we don't miss anything. The rain continued to hammer against the windows, a relentless reminder of their predicament. Matt looked out again. Roger's truck still lurked in the background, but they could feel power growing within their collective. He turned back to his friends, his pride swelling. In their shared urgency, the atmosphere shifted. Where fear once rested, hope began to blossom. They were finding their fight. Suddenly, a loud knock on the door made them jump, the sound echoing with ominous intensity. It was almost rhythmic, like the heartbeat rising in all their chests. Matt's stomach churned. Was this it? Would it be Roger? Would they finally have to face him? What if it's not Roger? Tom whispered, a fresh wave of fear rolling over the group. Then we'll face whoever it is, Matt said, grounding his voice. Together. As he took a step toward the door, he wondered if he was ready. Would they truly be united when faced with the storm ahead? Would they confront the fear together, no matter what awaited them on the other side? With a deep breath, he grasped the handle and hesitated, feeling every heartbeat in the silence. What would they find beyond that door? Matt's heart pounded as his fingers tightened around the cold metal of the doorknob. He could feel the uncertainty and trepidation wafting through the room, mingling with the relentless sound of the rain tapping against the windows. The knock came again, louder, shaking him from his thoughts. It felt like the world outside was echoing their fears. Maybe it's someone else who needs help? Laura suggested quietly, her voice brimming with uncertainty. But even as she said it, they all knew deep down it was likely Roger. He wouldn't give up so easily. Taking another deep breath, Matt turned the knob and pulled the door open. The scene outside rushed in like a wave, filling the room with a chill. Rain poured down, soaking the ground, and the streetlights flickered, casting an eerie glow. But it wasn't Roger that stood there. It was Mike, one of their neighbors, looking panicked and soaked to the skin. His eyes were wild, darting back and forth, scanning the group behind Matt. "Thank God you're all here," he shouted, barely able to catch his breath. I heard the noise. Have you seen Roger? Matt stepped aside, letting Mike in. Just a bunch of loud bangs, he said, keeping his voice steady. But we're all right. We've been talking about what to do. As Mike burst through the front door, the tension seemed to change. The group closed in around him, worried expressions spreading like wildfire. In that moment, it struck Matt how vulnerable they all were. United but vulnerable. Together, but living in constant fear. Listen, Mike said, shaking water from his hair. It's worse than we thought. Roger's been going around, threatening everyone he thinks might side with you. He's planning something big, and it's not just about the fence anymore. He's making it personal. Matt felt his stomach twist. The fear that had been festering in the back of his mind now surged to the forefront. They weren't just holding their ground, they were defending themselves against a tide of aggression that seemed to grow stronger each day. What do we do? Tom asked, his voice wavering. Mike glanced at everyone in the room, his expression serious. We need to alert everyone. If Roger's escalating, we can't wait for him to make the first move. We need a neighborhood meeting now. Suddenly, the room felt smaller, every corner charged with anxiety and anticipation. Everyone nodded in agreement, their earlier bravado now mixed with urgency. If they were going to face this together, it had to be now. Matt felt a surge of determination course through him. Let us get the word out. Laura, you can still go door to door, round up the ones you know, he said. Mike, you help with flyers and calls. Barry and Linda, start setting up a group online. We need a plan. There was a newfound electricity in the room as everyone sprang into action. They scattered, but this time not in fear. They were working together, pooling their resources and strengths to combat the threat looming on the horizon. As Matt moved to help, a flash of lightning illuminated the room, temporarily freezing them in stillness. It felt like a sign this was their moment. Despite the rising tension outside, there was warmth building within their gathering, energy sparked by a shared purpose. Just as they began to formulate their plan, another crash echoed from the vicinity outside, loud and jarring. It felt like a warning, reminding them of what was at stake. Matt's heart raced in synchrony with the pounding rain, each beat echoing the resolve he felt growing inside. Let us hurry, he urged. We need this finished before Roger makes his next move. He could almost see the strength in his friends' faces, the flicker of hope fanned into flame by their camaraderie. Together, they could face anything. But in the shadows of the storm, what was Roger planning next? Every moment felt charged, precarious. What would happen when they finally confronted him? The rain intensified, drumming against the roof like a warning from the heavens. Matt glanced at his friends, their faces a mix of worry and determination. The atmosphere in the room was electric. Each heartbeat felt like a drumroll echoing the moment's urgency. Their neighborhood, usually filled with the mundane rhythms of life, was spiraling toward chaos. Okay, here's the plan, Matt said, his voice steadying as he took a deep breath. Mike, grab the large paper and start writing out our flyers. We need to include the time and place of the meeting and a warning about Roger's threats. Laura, I want you to gather the neighbors you can. Start with those closest, we need to rally them quickly. Laura nodded, her face serious but focused. I'll take my umbrella. It's coming down out there. Tom, you'll stay here with me. Let us keep an eye on the property just in case Roger tries anything while we're all preoccupied, Matt said, his mind racing with possibilities. They moved quickly, dispersing but not without glancing back at each other, a silent affirmation of their bond growing stronger through the storm. With every passing second, Matt felt the weight of impending confrontation settle on his shoulders. How had it come to this? They had only wanted to stand up for themselves. Now, they were branded as adversaries in a battle that felt increasingly menacing. Outside, rain soaked the earth, transforming the neighborhood into a shrouded mystery. Each step Laura took down the street felt heavy, her heart thumping with fear. She thought about the families they were up against. Would they rally together or cower instead? A deafening crack of thunder split the air, causing her to flinch. She hurried through the downpour, each house passing in a blurred rush. She rang doorbells, her nerves creating a rhythm of doubt. Would they listen? Did they even care? After what felt like hours, each familiar face turned into a canvas of contemplation, some with anxiety, others filled with reluctant determination. Laura found herself told they felt trapped, unsure of what they could do against Roger's unchecked aggression. As she spoke, Laura noticed the shadows of doubt flickering in their eyes. "We can't let him control us," she urged. "This isn't just about the fence anymore. If we let this continue, he'll think he can bully all of us into submission." A couple of neighbors began to gather, listening intently. It was slow, but the flames of resolve sparked first in a few, then spread through the crowd. It struck her that this was not just about their homes, but their strength in numbers, their collective voice against a single threat. Meanwhile, back at Matt's house, he and Tom organized their thoughts, bouncing ideas about the meeting while scanning outside. The crashing rain was a split symphony, both a horror show and a cleansing song. "What if we confront him at the meeting?" Tom suggested quietly, his eyes darting to the street, worried Roger might show up. Matt took a deep breath, his heart racing. "It's a risk we might have to take. We need to know if he's serious about this. Do you think we can pull this off?" Tom asked, uncertainty lacing his voice. "Together we can," Matt replied, conviction flooding his words. As the rain continued, their pulse surged with anticipation, feeling the moment shift. They would either stand tall against Roger's threat or be swallowed by it, and every second ticked closer to that moment of truth. With a final look toward the door, Matt felt something shift inside him. The fear that had gripped him was now replaced with something warmer. He would fight for his community. They would do this together, but just as they began to feel that sense of hope, a loud, aggressive shout rang from outside. "You think you can oppose me?" Matt froze, eyes wide with shock. The storm had finally brought Roger to their doorstep. What would they do now? Would they face him head-on, or find themselves cornered before the fight even began? Matt's heart raced as the voice of Roger thundered through the downpour, echoing off the drenched pavement. Fear rippled through him, but it was quickly followed by a rush of defiance. The moment had come. They couldn't back down now. "Stay here," he whispered urgently to Tom. He moved toward the door, drawn by the tempest outside, a clash of rain and fury. Every fiber in him screamed to hold steady. With a deep breath, he pushed the door open, letting the cold air sweep in. Raindrops hit his skin like tiny daggers, but the chill was forgotten by the heat of his resolve. There stood Roger, a menacing silhouette against the backdrop of lightning flashes. The man wasn't just a bully, he was a storm personified. "What do you want, Roger?" Matt called out, his voice steady, despite the turmoil in his chest. "I want to remind you people who you're dealing with." Roger bellowed, taking a step closer. "You think you can dig your heels in? You're nothing. You think your little group has a chance?" A surge of murmured voices called from behind Matt as neighbors began to gather cautiously at his sides. Encouragement flickered in their eyes, and together, they slowly began to form a united front. Their presence ignited something within him. Awareness of their collective strength was aflame against Roger's aggression. "Maybe we are nothing to you," Matt replied, raising his chin, "but we're not going to let you intimidate us into silence. This community is more than just your playground." Roger scoffed, his smirk dripping with derision. "This town? It's mine. I've built it from the ground up. You think you can change anything? You're all scared little mice." Matt felt hearts beating beside him. Their fear began to dissolve, replaced by a resolve that was gaining momentum. "Scared?" A voice materialized from the crowd, one of the fathers he'd mentored. "I've seen what fear does to people, and I won't let it hold me or my family hostage any longer." "That's right," Linda chimed, taking a step forward. "We're fired up, and we intend to fight for our community." A wave of support echoed, rippling through the remains of that earlier dark energy. Each voice stacked upon the last, embedding strength into the ground where they stood. Matt felt his spirit thrum with determination as he turned his gaze back to Roger. "You may have tried to scare us, but look around you. We're united, and together, we can take you down." Roger's smirk twisted, and for a moment, confusion flashed across his face, almost as if he hadn't expected resistance. His eyes darted among the group, searching for signs of weakness, but all he found were determined faces, inspired warriors prepared to defend their ground. "You think this is a game?" Roger sneered, but there was an edge of worry creeping into his tone. "I won't stop, and I'm not finished with any of you. I'll make you wish you were never born." Matt stepped forward, shielding his friends behind him. "You're going to have to do a lot better than threats, Roger. You're outnumbered, and we're not cowering anymore." A storm building in the clouds mirrored the energy surrounding them. The rain had softened, but poured more intensely with each clash of wills. With every heartbeat, Matt's resolve solidified. This wasn't just about courage. It was about creating a safe place, a community filled with hope. "You're a coward if you think you can bully us into submission," he continued. "You may have gotten away with it before, but that ends now." The audience began to echo. "Enough is enough. We stand together." Matt saw fluttering emotions across faces he'd known for years, their transformation from fear to strength mirroring his own journey over these months. "What will it take, Roger? You think power comes from control, but power comes from standing up and defending what's right." Suddenly, there was a loud honk from a nearby car, and headlights cut through the wet night. A few surprised voices turned to face the sound. Someone was stepping out. It was one of the local council members, a lady he hadn't expected to see involved. "Matt?" she called, her voice ringing strong against the backdrop of chaos. "We've had enough too. Roger doesn't run this town, we do." More neighbors emerged from the shadows, a badge of change at their back. The ground hummed with their footsteps, echoing in rhythm with Matt's heart, a pulse of resistance. "A town brought together in unity," he declared, "is stronger than any force trying to tear it apart." The momentum sent shockwaves into the atmosphere, each person reaffirming their presence, their humanity, and their fight for justice. Roger faltered, recognition shifting within him. The numbers were no longer in his favor. "You think you can turn against me?" he barked helplessly as the crowd began to chant, "Together. Stronger. We are one." Matt felt his pulse quicken again, this time from hope. He could see it taking shape. Side by side, every neighbor now stood ready to fight. They were a chanting tide, an unwillingness to accept intimidation. Within moments, Matt's whispers turned to proclamations, his fear replaced by the fire lit by those who stood behind him. "This is our community, and we refuse to let you dictate our lives any longer," he yelled, as if to snap any hesitations lingering in his gut. The question wasn't what will Roger do, but what have we unleashed among ourselves? With hands gripping shoulders, faces beaming with encouragement, Matt understood this was more than a fight for justice. It was a transformative journey for all of them, a roadmap to healing every wound that had been inflicted. The storm had delivered them to this very moment. They would either stand as one or shatter under pressure. But as the rain continued to fall, the battle wasn't between them and Roger any longer. It was against fear itself. "What will it take, Roger?" he shouted once more, meeting his eyes with relentless conviction. "The truth is, you've already lost." And as the crowd erupted into a unified roar, Matt felt a warmth spread through him, an undeniable truth emerging in the tempest. Together, they would rise. In that moment, he realized they would forge their destiny and rewrite their narrative, not just as individuals, but as a community stronger than any storm. "Let us show him who we are," Matt proclaimed, and with that, they charged forward, ready to confront whatever darkness still loomed. The battle had only just begun. Now, it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to catch the next exclusive story. Don't wait not even one more second to share this adventure with at least 5 friends who also crave transformation. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm, and tell me in the comments how this chapter made you feel. Only true fans know how important your support is. Let's keep this energy alive.